What's up, guys? We are back with Tuesday college basketball action here on December 17th. We're breaking down 15 games in this crowded slate. We'll be looking at leans against the spread and on the over-under as lots of teams are getting into their conference schedules here, so let's get after it. Also, huge announcement. We started a second channel called More Stump the Spread, where we'll be posting our breakdown of the NBA Cup Finals, where we have our NBA leans for tonight and a bunch of player props. If you want to win all of your Tuesday bets, hit that like button. It's good luck and really helps the video get promoted out there. Obviously, I would love it if you would subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying the content, and if you're really a big time supporter, you can sign up for a channel membership to get early access to all of my NFL and college football videos, and also get your name up on screen in every video, just like right now. I really appreciate everyone watching this, and big shout out to the channel members. Our videos are sponsored by StumpTheSpread.com. We have a team of professional cappers over there who are putting in work every single day, covering all the major sports with the NFL, college football, NCAA basketball, NBA, UFC, and the NHL all going on right now. It is a great time to sign up for maximum bang for your buck. There's a link down in the description, or you can just type Stump the Spread into your search engine of choice and easily view our free picks, new ones posted daily, and you can join our free email list to get updates on results and free picks straight to your inbox. Let me know in the comments any bets you're looking at today, and I will give you my best advice on all of them. I personally respond to every single comment every day, and I'm more than happy to get back to you. As always, our favorite picks will be in the pinned comment down below. Now let's get into our first game of the day. We've got DePaul going on the road in this one to take on St. John's. DePaul comes into this game fresh off of a nice win there against Wichita State, a 91-72 comfortable win. DePaul at 8-2 on the season, honestly not off to a terrible start. It's not like they've played the toughest competition, and losses against Texas Tech and Providence kind of take the win out of your sails a little bit. I mean, not that those are easy teams necessarily, but just not an amazing DePaul team. They don't come into the season highly projected, although they are putting up some impressive numbers against that relatively weak competition. They're a high-scoring offense. Their assist numbers are very good. Their rebounding numbers are nice. A lot of that's a function of them playing at a high pace, but still got to give them some credit here. We also like what we're seeing from Jacob Meyer. 15.2 points per game, and Connor Enright, guys, 7.5 assists per game, nothing to turn your nose up at. So we'll see what they can do going on the road in this one to take on a Big East opponent, the St. John's Red Storm. St. John's comes into this game fresh off a 99-77 win there over Bryant. Obviously not the toughest competition there, but a nice win for them over Kansas State. They did lose against UGA, but they beat UVA, so that's nice, and played an absolute nail-biter. They did eventually lose against then number 13 Baylor, but still not a bad game there. So St. John's can't be too disappointed with the start they're off to this season. RJ Lewis Jr. playing well, almost 17 points per game. Richmond there, almost 5 assists per game. Their offensive numbers are also fantastic, scoring 84.4 points per game. That puts them 32nd in the nation. The rebounding numbers are off the charts. Their assist numbers are also very good. And guys, they're getting to play this game at home. I'm not messing around with this one too much, guys. St. John's, they're 13.5 point favorites, which is a lot. We've got a total here of 150.5. DePaul 6-4 against the spread. St. John's 7-3 against the spread. Go ahead and give me the Red Storm in this one. I think they take care of business pretty handily against a DePaul team that's not going to be ready to play on the road in such a hostile environment here in their first game in the Big East this season. Next on the docket, we're looking at Western Carolina. They're going on the road in this one to take on number 1 Tennessee. Western Carolina, the Catamounts, not having a great time, 3-6 on the season. They've lost their last 2 in a row. When they played against Marquette earlier this season, they lost that game by, 32 points. They got blown out by Florida State as well. Kept things maybe slightly closer there against Wake Forest, but yeah, not a great team. I don't think they're going to have a very good time out there in the Southern. They don't have any standout scorers. Their numbers are very, very weak. I guess rebounding numbers are decent, but yeah, given their competition and the situations they've been in, I'm not surprised to see their rebounding numbers look slightly decent, but yeah, just not a big fan here of what we're seeing from Western Carolina. And yeah, this is a cupcake game for their opponent in this one, Tennessee, who 10-0 on the season, ranked number 1 in the nation, absolutely cruising right now. They're coming off a 66-64 win there against Illinois, so easy work in that one. Very much liking what we're seeing from the Volunteers. They clearly deserve to be the best team, ranked number 1 in the nation. All their numbers very, very good across the board. Chaz Lanier, a monster, averaging nearly 20 points per game. Ziegler, 7.4 assists per game. Very good numbers. Honestly, great numbers for this team across the board. And with wins against Illinois, Miami, Syracuse, Baylor, UVA, and Louisville, they are taking care of business here in the early goings. But something we've got to look at is how likely are they to get a nearly 40-point win in this game. I mean, against UTM, they did have a pretty big blowout, but they only won that game by 38 points, which would just be barely enough. It's a little bit of a big ask to beat another basketball team by 40 points. And how locked in is Tennessee going to be in this game? Well, guys, it is interesting. I do think, even when they clear the bench, they should be building the lead here. So in terms of the side in this game, Tennessee, they're 8-2 against the spread. Western Carolina only 4-1 against the spread. This isn't really a look-ahead spot for either team, so nothing to be drawn from that. Guys, I'm leaning just slightly here towards Tennessee to get the job done and win this game by 40, but this is definitely not a play that's ending up in the pinned comment. I just wanted to throw this in here. We've got number 1 Tennessee playing a game. Kind of nice to at least mention it. Next up, guys, we're looking at the George Mason Patriots. They're going on the road to take on the Duke Blue Devils. George Mason comes into this game honestly kind of hitting their stride here. They've now won 5 in a row. Not the toughest wins out there. Taking out Tulane their last time. Not terrible. Beating JMU, cool. But they did lose to ECU by 1 point. In their big step-up game this season, they did lose against Marquette. They kept things slightly respectable, losing by 19. So maybe something to build on there for George Mason. They're not a terrible team by any stretch. I don't think they're awful. I think they'll be okay out there in the A10, but over the course of the season, the rebounding numbers are fine, the defensive numbers are fine, but none of these numbers really jump out at me. Darius Maddox averaging 15 points per game, that's cool, but I don't know if that's really enough to get me excited here about George Mason as they go on the road to take on the Duke Blue Devils, who are 8-2 on the season. They come into this game winners of their last 4 in a row. They just blew out UW, which obviously, not a big deal there to win that game comfortably, but they've played really well against some good teams, beating Louisville, beating Auburn, hanging very, very tough there against KU, beating then number 17 Arizona. They did lose against Kentucky, and they lost against Kansas, so those are some tough losses, but this is a Duke Blue Devil team that should be, pretty locked in for this game, although they do have Virginia Tech coming up, so that would be, another conference game, so maybe they could be a little bit in a look-ahead spot here. Maybe slightly concerning, but in their step down games, guys, they've been pretty good this season. They haven't played a ton of them, but they've taken care of business in the vast majority. So we'll see what they can do in this one. Duke 19.5 point favorites here playing at home. We got a total of 137.5. George Mason 6-4 against the spread. Duke 6-4 against the spread as well. Guys, I'm gonna be leaning here slightly towards George Mason. Yeah, I know you see me wearing a Duke hat. You probably thought I would be taking the Blue Devils here, but I do think George Mason and the points is the side you want to be on in this game. Duke, maybe a slight look ahead spot for them, but I don't think that's a huge consideration. And, we don't have a big look ahead spot for George Mason either. So definitely give me the Patriots here to keep this game at least slightly competitive. Next up, guys, we've got the North Carolina Tar Heels, UNC, going on the road to take on number 7 Florida. The Tar Heels not having that smooth of a season so far, guys. They lost against Kansas, they lost against Auburn, they lost against Michigan State, and they lost against Alabama. And while you might say those are some pretty solid losses, I would agree with you, but this was supposed to be a team that should have won, half of those games. They barely beat Dayton. Albeit Dayton's a very good team, not taking anything away from them, but, played a relatively competitive game against Georgia Tech. And by relatively competitive, they won that game by 3, and then their last time out of nice, pretty easy win there against LaSalle, which that's a step down game. They're supposed to have a blowout win in that one. So we'll see if they can kind of circle the wagons here, get back on track. RJ Davis only shooting 35% from the field. That makes your 17.6 points per game not look so great. They're 15th in the nation in points per game, so that's something nice. And the rebounding numbers look good. All the numbers indicate this team is going to, start trending in the right direction, but they've got another couple very tough games coming up, playing against Florida and then playing against UCLA. So we'll see what they can do here, see if they get distracted. They're on the road and playing against a tough team here in the Florida Gators. Not a team that's, have had any hiccups so far this season. This isn't a home game necessarily. It's been played in North Carolina, so it's closer to a home game there for North Carolina. That at least has to be mentioned. But we've loved what we've seen from Florida this season. They opened things up with a win over USF, a nice win over Florida State, win over Wake Forest, taking down UVA, and then they beat Arizona State comfortably. So they've had a lot of success, albeit not against the toughest schedule. So that's something to keep in mind here, especially, they're playing against a North Carolina team that's basically going to be at home here for a game that's in North Carolina. Walter Clayton Jr., a monster, 19.1 points per game. This is a very good offensive team, 18th in the nation, 86.2 points per game. They're also an elite rebounding team. The defensive numbers have been very good. There's a lot to like about Florida, but it is pretty concerning. They've played such a weak schedule. UNC, they're only 4-6 against the spread. Florida, 7-3 against the spread. The Gators, 3.5 point favorites here. We've got a total of 166.5. That's an awful lot of points, guys. So I would definitely tend to look towards the under a little bit in this game, but I also think you want to take North Carolina here in a bounce back spot. Getting 3.5 points here, I think it's a pretty good place to take them. It's going to be a huge test here for Florida. They don't really have a big look ahead spot or anything like that, and that does make me worry a little bit about the Tar Heels, but I think this is a spot you want to be on North Carolina and the points. Next up, guys, we've got the Southern Jaguars. They're going on the road to take on the Ole Miss Rebels. Ole Miss ranked 17th in the nation. Southern, not quite that high, guys. This team hasn't done a ton of amazing stuff this year. They kept it moderately competitive against Iowa, did not stay attached really against Texas A&M. I mean, I guess, I don't know. I can't really give them that much credit. I mean, they lost by 16. That's not horrible. That's not terrible, but it's not great. They've got three wins against non-Division I opponents. They did beat Tulsa, but now going on the road to take on Ole Miss feels like a pretty big test for a team whose leading scorer is averaging 11.3 points per game. Their numbers are drastically inflated with those games they've played against those, non-Division I teams. So we're not even going to look at those too much, guys. The Southern Jaguars, not a team that I'm super high on here. They're going on the road to take on Ole Miss, who are coming off of a, nice win there over USM. Their only loss this season was against Purdue, and that was by 2 points. The Rebels have been killing it so far this year, no doubt about that. Sean Padula, a very good player, guys. 14.4 points per game, shooting 45% from the field. This squad is a real squad. They can do some damage out there. And yeah, looking at their numbers for the season, they look pretty good. Looking at the schedule they've played and they found a success against, wins against BYU and Louisville this season, that's some pretty good stuff. So looking at the numbers for this game, it makes sense that Ole Miss is 23.5 point favorites. We've got a total of 144 in this game. Southern 4-2 against the spread. Ole Miss 7-2-1 against the spread. 23.5 is a lot of points, guys, but I think I'm willing to lay it here with Ole Miss. I think they get the win and cover in this game. Obviously, that's a lot of points. But they can blow out some weak opponents. They did play a close game against Grambling, a close game against, USA, but they've played well against, they blew out Louisville. They got a comfortable win in their last game, winning by 31. So yeah, I think we see similar success here, and it's no look ahead spot. So give me the Ole Miss Rebels to get the win and cover in this one. Next up, guys, we've got Michigan State going on the road to take on Oakland. The number 20 Michigan State Spartans come into this game fresh off a blowout win against Nebraska. They also very comfortably handled business against Minnesota. They beat UNC. They did lose against Memphis, a loss that, looks pretty respectable, and they did lose against then number 1 Kansas. So yeah, I don't have a lot of negative things to say about the Spartans this season. They've got decent scoring. 56th in the nation, averaging over 80 points per game. They're an elite rebounding team. Their ball movement is very, very good as well. This team can do some very, very good stuff. So expecting good stuff in general here from Michigan State. They are playing, technically on the road in this one, but not actually, guys. This game is on a neutral court, but it's a neutral court located in Detroit, Michigan. So think we could safely say this is a home game there for Michigan State. They're taking on the Oakland Golden Grizzlies, who come into this game 3-5 on the season. They have played a very tough schedule, but they are coming off a loss against Youngstown State. So yeah, I'm not going to give them too much credit. They kept things kind of close against Illinois. They got dismantled by Boise State. They did keep it within 21, I guess, against Kansas, but yeah, not a team that's, they lost against EMU. This is not a squad that's, I would term as elite. We'll see what they do out there in the horizon. I don't want to talk too much crap. They could do some positive stuff, but this team struggles to put up points, guys. They scored 61.8 points per game on average of the season. That is 400th in the nation. 400th in the nation. So not feeling super good about that. And looking at the numbers of this game, they look a little questionable as well, guys. Oakland getting 16.5 points in this game. We've got a total of 134.5. Michigan State 6-4 against the spread. Oakland 4-3 against the spread. I'm not going to complicate this one, guys. I think Michigan State playing a de facto home game here easily take care of business and win this one by 20 plus. So definitely give me Michigan State to get the win and cover here. Next up, guys, we got the UNLV Rebels going on the road in this one to take on the Dayton Flyers, the number 22 now Dayton Flyers. UNLV 5-4 on the season. They're fresh off a win over Pacific, a 72-65 win. So congratulations. No parade for you though. That is not that impressive of a win to me. They lost 3 straight before that against reasonable opponents, guys. Losing against Mississippi State, Northwestern, and Creighton. I'm not going to throw a fit about that. They also lost against Memphis in a very competitive game early this season. But yeah, I don't know how high we should be on the UNLV Rebels this season. Are they going to have a good time out there in a kind of loaded Mountain West? That seems like a big ask. Thomas Jr. leading the way for them. 17 points, 4 assists. Very good stuff, but this is a very weak rebounding team. The defensive numbers are not impressive to me either. So both of those things could be significant problems there against the high-flying Dayton Flyers, who are now ranked 22nd in the nation. They're 9-2 on the season. Their losses were against UNC by 2 points and by 5 points against Iowa State, number 5 Iowa State. So they played really well. They knocked off UConn. They just knocked off in their last game, guys. They were down 13 and came back to beat Marquette 71-63. So great great stuff in that game. We see Cheeks leading the way for this team, but Malaki Smith is right there as well. Like, this is a very talented, very deep squad. They're in the top 100 offensively. They put up decent rebounding numbers. Their offense and defense both very, very good. So not a lot of negatives for me to find here about Dayton, guys. They've been very, very good. And looking at the numbers for this game, they're 11-point favorites. We've got a total of 141. UNLV only 1-7-1 against the spread. Dayton 8-2 against the spread. That's very, very good stuff. This game's being played at home for them in Dayton, Ohio. Guys, give me Dayton to get the win and cover in this game. I'm a little bit worried. This seems like kind of a fishy line to me. I think it should be more, towards like 18 or 15 or something like that. But yeah, we'll take Dayton here at -11. I think they get the job done comfortably. Next up, guys, you're looking at number 25, Clemson. The Tigers go on the road in this game to take on South Carolina. Clemson, fresh off a tough 87-82 loss there against Memphis. A crazy, crazy overtime game. What are you going to do? Tough stuff there at the end of the game. Tyrese Hunter had 23 points and that go-ahead three-pointer there with a minute left in overtime. Yeah, Memphis came from behind and ended up beating Clemson, but man, they played one heck of a game. So have to feel pretty good about that if you're Clemson, even though it was a loss. They've got a win over Miami, a win over number 4 Kentucky. They took down Penn State. They did lose against Boise State, but Boise State's looked pretty decent this year, so I don't think you need to hang your head too much about that. The Tigers seem like they're geared up for a pretty decent season out there in the ACC, so we'll see what they can do when they get back to conference play, but no conference play for them in this one. For the Tigers, guys, we see Chase Hunter leading the way, 16 points per game for him. He's shooting nearly 50% from the field. Their season long numbers are also very, very respectable. So liking in general what we're seeing from Clemson here as they go on the road to take on South Carolina. This game is a true road game here. It's being played in South Carolina, so we'll see what they can do. The Gamecocks, not the worst season, I suppose. They're 7-3 overall, but some tough losses. Opening their season with a loss there to lowly UNF. That can't feel good. Losing against Indiana, losing against Xavier. Their wins this season, beating Virginia Tech by 10. Okay, cool. Beating Boston College in a blowout, that looks a little bit better, but then losing against ECU, beating ECU in a very close game, then a close for part of it, I guess, win there over UPST. So we'll see if they can bounce back a little bit. Colin Murray bowls a decent score there, 15 points per game, almost 16. But yeah, not great season-long numbers. I worry about their rebounding. I worry about their just general, output there on offense. This is a true home game, so that maybe gives South Carolina a little bit of a boost. They're still getting 2.5 points, though. We've got a total of 135. Guys, Clemson 6-5 against the spread. South Carolina 4-6 against the spread. Clemson in a big bounce-back spot after that tough overtime loss against Memphis. Give me the Clemson Tigers to get the win and cover on the road in this one. Next up, we're looking at Florida International. They're going on the road in this one to take on East Carolina. Florida International, they're 4-6 on the season. They've had a busy time playing 10 games already. A couple of those have been against non-Division I opponents. Their last time out, they did beat Stetson 81-72, but it has not been an easy season. Losing against FAU, losing against Florida Gulf Coast, losing against Howard. This is not a team that's had a great time. Jaden Brewer leading the way, 15 points per game, but yeah, the rebounding numbers, a little bit concerning. The defensive numbers are very concerning, and the ball movement for this offense really not there. So definitely concerns here for the Panthers here. How are they going to do in the Conference USA? We'll have to wait and see, guys. They are playing the East Carolina Pirates in this one, so a Conference USA against the American Conference in this one. The Pirates have had a rough time losing their last 3 in a row. They lost to UNCW, South Carolina, a very competitive game against South Carolina, and then losing their last time out to Northern Alabama. So yeah, tough stuff. RJ Felton looking like a monster, 17 points per game for him. Their season-long numbers are encouraging. They're a very, very good rebounding team. I think that's a big deal in this game. Their points per game numbers are respectable as well, and their defense is significantly better there than Florida International. So guys, in this spot, I definitely think we want to be looking at East Carolina. They've got the better logo, definitely, that's for sure. And, over the course of the season, I think they're going to be in a good spot. This game is being played in North Carolina. I think that helps them as well. So go ahead and give me the Pirates to get the win and cover. Next up, we've got the Winthrop Eagles. They're going on the road in this one to take on the Florida State Seminoles. Winthrop 9-3 on the season, having a pretty decent time out there. They've won their last, 5 games in a row, so that's pretty respectable. Not against the toughest opposition, obviously. Blowing out Bob Jones 103-55 their last time out. You don't get too much credit for that. and against Virginia Tech and Louisville, they looked very pedestrian this season. So not necessarily a team that's had a good time in their step-up games, but they have had a good time against worse opponents. Keldon Talford, guys, 15.2 points per game. That's good. Their season-long numbers look excellent, but those are very, very inflated based on who they've been playing against. And this is no step-down game, guys. This is a step-up game as they take on the Florida State Seminoles. Obviously, Florida State maybe not having the best start to their season, but this game is a home game. They're coming off of a nice win there over Tulane. They did lose by 10 against NC State and by 10 against LSU. They beat, UMass. They beat Temple. They kept things competitive there for a little bit against Florida, but that didn't go on for too long. So, yeah, Florida State, guys, a team that's been an interesting one, but definitely not a dominant one. Jameer Watkins, 18.7 points per game. That'll work, but their rebounding numbers for the season are very low. Their points per game numbers are also very low. So, definitely some concerns here for Florida State. And after this game, guys, they are taking on Louisville, so it's a little bit of a look-ahead spot. Winthrop, on the other hand, after this game, they're taking on Mercer, so I don't think they're about to freak out about that. Guys, looking at the numbers for this game, we see Florida State, they are 11-point favorites. We've got an over-under here of 158.5. Winthrop, 5-4 against the spread. Florida State actually 7-4 against the spread, but guys, I like Winthrop here to keep this thing to single digits at least. I don't know if they've really got too much of a chance to win this game, but I certainly think this is a spot we want to take Winthrop here. I mean, they can keep this game pretty competitive. I believe they can compete in terms of offensive production. Just go ahead and give me Winthrop and the points here. Will this make it into the pinned comment? I would say it's got a chance, but probably not a lock. Next up, guys, we got James Madison. They're going on the road in this game to take on Wake Forest. James Madison, the Dukes, come into this game winners of their last two in a row, beating ETSU and UVU. So some pretty good stuff there. They haven't had any huge step-up games so far this season. They beat Ohio, not Ohio State, but Ohio. And yeah, losing to Townsend isn't a great look, but it was a very close game. Yeah, they haven't just really played that interesting of a schedule yet this season. We'll see what they can do in the Sun Belt here down the stretch, but in this one, guys, a step up for them, taking on the Wake Forest Demon Deacons, who are 8-3 on the season. They're looking to have, a decent ACC schedule, but we'll see what happens. They are 1-0 so far, guys, with a win over Boston College, but the game before that, they lost against Texas A&M, scoring only 44 points. They also lost against Florida. They beat Minnesota, so give them some credit in there, and they've had some decent games against some step-down opponents. They beat Michigan early in the season, like that was a big deal, but we'll see what they can do down the stretch here. Wake Forest definitely still has some things to work on. Hunter Salas, 16.3 points per game, though. That is very reasonable. Their offensive numbers over the course of the year, though, don't really jump off the page. That's certainly a concern. And the rebounding numbers, obviously a lot of that's a function of pace of play, but those are not amazing either. So looking at the numbers for this game, Wake Forest, they're 7.5-point favorites here playing at home. We've got a total of 135.5. JMU, 5-4 against the spread, but Wake Forest only 2-9 against the spread this season. Not having a great time, not very good at putting away opponents, guys. I think this is a spot we probably want to ride that trend. I like James Madison here getting 7.5 points. I think they can keep things close. This is their first step up of the season, so that is a little bit concerning, but it's no look ahead spot for them and Wake Forest, guys. They do have a conference game on deck. They're about to go on the road to take on number 25 Clemson. So big look ahead spot for Wake Forest. Go ahead and give me James Madison and the points. Might be one of my favorite underdogs on this slate. Next on the docket, guys, we're looking at the Seton Hall Pirates. They're going on the road in this game to take on Villanova. Seton Hall only 5-6 on the year. They're not having a great time. They did just keep things very, very close against Rutgers, eventually losing, to a buzzer-beating 3. So that can't feel too great. That would have been one of their biggest wins, or actually no, that would be for sure their biggest win of the season. Definitely bigger than knocking off FAU, which they did manage to do, but they lost to Monmouth. They lost against Oklahoma State, who hasn't had the greatest season themselves. And yeah, losing that one against Rutgers, probably a pretty tough feeling. So we'll see what they can do here taking on Villanova. Things have not been easy for this team. They don't have a lot of superstars. Their offensive production and kind of pace of play have not looked great. They're allowing 60 points per game, but they're only scoring 60.4 points per game. Obviously, with such a slow pace of play, guys, your rebounding numbers aren't going to look too good either. So just not a lot of great things for me to say here about Seton Hall. Not a team that I'm excited to watch very often, and just not a team that's having a very good time. They're going on the road to take on the Villanova Wildcats, who are another team that hasn't exactly had the smoothest of sailing, but it seems like they've maybe figured something out over their last 4 games. Going 4-0 over that stretch, they beat number 4 Cincinnati 68-60, so that's a nice win, and they blew out Temple and blew out FDU. So definitely steps being taken significantly here in the right direction for Villanova. Eric Dixon, obviously a monster, 25.8 points per game on nearly 55% shooting. They're a good rebounding team. Their offensive numbers look good. Their defensive numbers also looking very, very solid. I wish their assist numbers were a little bit better. The ball movement can be a little bit choppy for them at times, but overall, guys, really, really like what we're seeing from Villanova. And looking at the numbers for this game, the odds makers like them too. They're 8.5-point favorites. We got a total of 126.5. Seton Hall only 4-7 against the spread. Villanova up to 6-5 against the spread now, and I think this is a time we want to be a little bit chalky and lean on the home team here, guys. I like very little of what I'm seeing from Seton Hall. Too much defense, too little offense. I think Villanova has the medicine for that. They comfortably win this game by double digits the majority of the time, and this is a play that definitely could end up in the pinned comment. Rounding into the home stretch here, guys, we are looking at the Drake Bulldogs. They're going on the road in this game to take on Kansas State. Drake still undefeated on the season, 9-0 overall. They've got some nice wins mixed in there too, taking down Florida Gulf Coast, Miami, FAU, Vanderbilt. Not recently too many great wins, but they have been comfortable. Their last time out, guys, they won 90-35. So obviously a huge blowout there against St. Ambrose. Not really the toughest opponent, obviously, but yeah, loving what we're seeing from Drake right now on both ends of the floor. The offensive numbers are looking good. The rebounding may be a little bit sketchy, but really, guys, that defense has been stifling. We love what we're seeing from Drake. They're poised to have another very good season there in the MVC. They got off to a good start there with that win over Valparaiso. Now 1-0 in conference play, and honestly looking like the best team out there in the Missouri Valley. So we'll see what they can do here in a big step-up game. They're about to take on the Kansas Wildcats, who come into this one 6-3 on the season. They lost against LSU, they lost against the Flamin' Libs, and they lost against St. John's their last time out in kind of a blowout situation. So not the best look there for Kansas State, a team that was hoping to take a little bit of a step up, but that really just hasn't been the case. This is basically a home game for Kansas State as well, but yeah, I don't know how high I can really be on the Wildcats here. I mean, Brendan Howson, he's solid, 15.2 points per game, but yeah, their numbers don't really jump off the page. Not an elite rebounding team. They haven't had a lot of success, even in, their, I'm not going to say they've been bad in their step down games, but they haven't been amazing, and they haven't been good at all in their, games against solid opponents. So I do think Drake qualifies as a solid opponent here. We see Kansas State, they're 1-point favorites. We've got a total of 137.5. Drake is 4-3 against the spread. Kansas State 3-6 against the spread. Guys, give me the Drake Bulldogs. I think they stay undefeated. I think they get the win in this one. They're a very solid team on both ends of the floor. I don't think Kansas State really going to have that good of a time in the Big 12 this season. I think Drake is going to be just fine in the Missouri Valley. I like them in this spot a good amount. Next up, we've got UC San Diego. They go on the road in this one to take on Utah State. UC San Diego, a very successful team so far this year, guys. They're actually 8-2 against the spread. They've won, their last 7 in a row. They just beat Idaho 80-56, so a pretty much blowout situation there. They haven't had a ton of big step-up games. They did lose against San Diego State early, at the very, very beginning of the year. They've played pretty well, though, across the board. A nice win over JMU. They've got, some very talented scorers on this team. The rebounding numbers are problematic, guys. Not a great team on the board, so that'll be something to watch in this game for sure. But liking overall what we're seeing from UC San Diego, guys. They're a team that could definitely put together something pretty impressive there in the Big West this season. But we'll have to see, guys, as they go on the road to take on the undefeated Utah State Aggies, who are now 10-0 on the year. Yeah, they've been playing pretty great to start the season, guys. A nice step-up win there against Iowa, and really, it's interesting. I don't know what we even should consider a step-up game here for Utah State, because they're a team that's going to be looking to finish very close to the top there of the Mountain West, a very, very tough conference. Beating USF their last time out, 88-67. Very good stuff there. We are a little bit worried about the look-ahead spot here. They do play St. Mary's, the game after this. So yeah, we'll see. Maybe they're not, 100% locked in for this one. They are a very good rebounding team. Their season-long numbers look fantastic across the board. So yeah, this is a very interesting spot for me. Utah State 8.5 point favorites here, a total of 150. UC San Diego is 8-2 against the spread. Like I was saying, Utah State 5-4 against the spread. This is a tough spot, guys. I am leaning a little bit towards UC San Diego and the points here, just because it's a look-ahead spot for Utah State, but I'm not putting this one anywhere near the pin comment, guys. This is a game I'm very excited to watch and not going to be that excited to put too much on. I just need more information from both of these teams. Last but not least here, guys, we have the Stetson Hatters. They're going on the road in this game to take on LSU. Stetson only 1-9 on the season, straight up not having a good time. They just lost by 9 points against FIU, so maybe not their worst loss. They did keep it within 2 points against USF, so that was a solid road game there for sure. But yeah, it's been tough sailing, getting blown out by Oklahoma, losing to Citadel, losing to Omaha. The Hatters have not had a good time. They're one of the worst assist number teams in the NCAA. Their points allowed per game is horrible. They're just not a very good squad. So we'll see what they can do here against LSU, who's actually 8-2 on the season, fresh off a 74-64 loss against SMU. They've had some chances to do some good stuff this season. I mean, they did lose against Pitt. That would have been a nice win, but yeah, losing, beating Florida State is good, beating Florida Gulf Coast is good, but they tend to play some close games here, and yeah, I don't know if I'm 100% sold here on LSU. Those, offensive numbers look great, but the defensive numbers look pretty bad, and the rebounding numbers are great. So we'll see what that results in here, but they are massive favorites in this game, guys. 25.5 point favorites. We've got a total of 150.5. Stetson 3-6 against the spread. LSU only 5-5 against the spread. LSU in their next game, they're playing, basically a no-name team, so we're not too worried about that. Stetson in their next game, not a step-up spot either, actually playing a non-Division I opponent. So, guys, I think this is probably a game we want to look slightly towards LSU to get the win and cover since they're, in a bounce-back situation, but not a game that's going to end up in my pinned comment. That's all the games we have for today, guys. Hit that like button for good luck on all of your bets and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Let me know in the comments any questions you have on today's slate. Don't forget to click on the video that's about to pop up right here to head over to the secondary channel and see my lean on the NBA Cup final game. We've got player props and picks on the side and over-under for that one. So definitely head over there. Also head to stumpthespread.com, link down in the description, so you can check out all other free articles and free information we've got over there, or to sign up for a premium membership to get access to our top confidence plays. That's all I've got for today, guys. We'll see you again tomorrow with more sports betting action.